Okay, okay, Naresh. But I'll call you when I'm done today, okay? Yeah, okay, bye. Bye. Bye.
Shall I go on?
Yeah. Okay, guys, welcome. Are you back?
Yes, we are, Prof.
Good, good, good. Well, thank you for taking that short break and getting back on time. And as I said, the next kind of segment, two segments, are going to be pretty quick because we've been through some of the stuff. So hopefully, I'll get you out quite early. Okay, so I want to spend the first half of this time kind of fleshing down more about ADEC and then more about rounding. And as I said, you are going to get the slides. Vic, if you can post the slide decks on the chat as well. So you will get the slide decks on the chat, download them from the chat, and we will post them on the learning management system as well. Okay, so let's just carry on, drill down a bit more about ADEC. You know, in essence, what it's all about. You know, it's just a communication tool. It helps us to standardize communication. It helps people using ADEC, you know, to have a structured, organized way of communicating. It puts you at ease, but more importantly, if you use ADEC, it actually puts the clients or patients at ease as well, makes them less nervous, and most importantly, engenders confidence, which you really want to do. Confidence, the client having confidence in you is key to what we call a positive client engagement or a positive client relationship, and we know what the logic is behind all of that in terms of outcomes. So they do better on many levels, okay, and your organization does better as well. So let's just drill down quickly, again on ADEC, a bit more on rounding, and then I think I'm going to speak a bit on managing up, and then we'll call it quits. So remember, no formal assignments for this module. All I want you to do is to write your ADEC scripts and your rounding scripts and share it with each other in your groups. Okay, so let's just recap on the ADEC thing. Next slide, Vic. Okay, remember I kind of next. I kind of alluded to this right when we begin, in the beginning, when we speak of either customers or clients, you have both internal and external. You know, I place a lot of emphasis on your internal customers. That's that kind of notion of staff centricity and managing the staff experience. Essentially, your path to improving your external client-customer relationship is the internal customer. So from a leadership point of view, start internally. Start with your internal customers. That means those who are reporting to you, your staff and your colleagues in your organization. External are, in our context, you know, the clientele that you use, that you deal with in social development. Now, the concept of client or customer engagement is essentially a private sector concept, but remember, we're trying to inculcate that same culture into the public sector. So although this slide talks about, you know, they take their business elsewhere, you know, that shouldn't be your reason. The fact that they can't take their business elsewhere shouldn't be the reason, in the public sector at least, that you don't embrace this philosophy. As I said, there's a logic for using ADEC and rounding because of, you know, clients do better, the organization does better, and our staff do better as well. Okay, next slide. Next slide as well. Okay, so this is kind of fragments what the clientele really need. And you can see, you know, internally our colleagues, the staff, those subordinates, people who work with us, those bottom three things are critical. You know, when we spoke about leadership, I introduced this concept about purpose, and I said it's purpose is, you know, what do we stand for? And I also said to you, you know, modern organizations, their success is determined to the extent that they stand for something. So I really don't like this concept and notion of vision and mission, because a vision is where the organization wants to go to. Nobody joins, I can tell you, nobody joins an organization because of where the organization wants to go to. People join organizations because they want to believe in the same thing that the organization stands for. So as a leader, you know, what you want to ensure is that there's some synergy between the purpose of individuals. I mean, we all have purposes, you know, in our lives. There's a reason for our being. There's a reason for us wanting to do things. So to the extent that you can synergize the organization's purpose with what they want, what they stand for, I think is the kind of holy grail from a leadership point of view. So, you know, this is critically important. They want worthwhile work. Okay, they want work. They want a sense of fulfillment from their work. So the work environment is more important. But what's most fulfilling, I mean, for me as a physician and for you in the social services, is when your patients or clients have a positive experience and they feel that you have made a difference in their lives. That is what worthwhile work is to me, and I'm sure that's what it is to you. So this concept of client experience, you know, this concept of rounding, this concept of ADEC internally, you're doing all of this internally, is to convey that sense to them that they're valued and that what they do is valued as well. Okay, they want to make a difference. So that's some of the things that you would communicate internally, because these are the things that your staff want. Okay, so that right column is, you know, in a way pretty self-explanatory, but you can see the overarching point of this slide is external customers and internal customers essentially want the same thing from the organization: respect, courtesy, communication, assistance, understanding, responsiveness to be heard. Okay? That's constant across both ways. Now, if those needs are constant, it really allows you to customize your communication approach and communication strategy and the way you round, because their expectations are pretty similar. You know, the clients, the only difference is the issues that they come to you for your service. In the context of healthcare, it's relief of symptoms, etc. In the context of social development, it's some of these crises that we have spoke about that you deal with, whether it's substance abuse or gender violence or whatever it is. That's the differentiating. But the other parts are generally the same. That gives us the opportunity to standardize communication, standardize rounding, which are the two critical tools to enhance patient engagement or client engagement. Okay, next slide. Okay, so just carry on, just click until that fills up. So preceding ADEC, this is important and kind of, once again, simplistic, self-explanatory, but first impressions count. Okay, you know that impressions people have of you are made in the first few seconds of that interaction. Okay, and ironically, that first impression is what determines the level of trust, of confidence that they will have in you. So, you know, I think make a concerted effort to make a first impression, either with your staff and colleagues or with your clients, because this really matters. That first interaction remains in clients' mind, it remains in the staff mind forever. And as we said, rightly or wrongly, you know, that's going to influence the extent to which you are successful. You have a bad first interaction with a staff member, you're going to have a tenuous relationship with that staff member throughout your tenure as a leader. You have a questionable first impression with clients, and it's exactly the same thing. They switch off, their experience is negative, their engagement is negative, their compliance becomes negative. So it really matters. Make a concerted effort to make a positive first impression. Okay, next slide. And as I said, ADEC is one way to actually make that positive first impression. Okay, so visual appearance is also important. I'm not sure what the policy is in terms of dress codes, etc. But that's something that you have to consider. But more important, simplistic things like eye contact and facial expression. These things, sometimes these non-verbal cues are important. People develop impressions about you and opinions about you based on that. Okay? Don't roll your eyes or sigh. It's from a patient experience point of view, it is very, very poor practice. And if you have to, even if you're exhausted at the end of the day, you're burnt out, etc., these small signals convey negative messages to clients and to staff. I mean, if a staff member is complaining about the same thing over and over, don't turn around, roll your eyes, sigh, it's you again. That's not what your job is as a leader, okay? So remember, nod when listening to show that you engage. That's kind of part of the acknowledge, the ADEC. Wear proper uniform and a visible name badge. Extremely important. Once again, simple, but I can't tell you how many of my colleagues, either have the long hair covering their name tags, or the name tag is turned around so that you can't see their names. As simple as a prominent name tag with your information on it, because I often look, if somebody introduces themselves to me and gives their name, I don't always remember that name. And so I'll always kind of look to the name tag to make sure that, okay, did I get this correctly? So it's actually important because your clients would be doing the same thing. So make sure the name tag is, the name and the name tag is visible. Now that's something you can also add in your experience survey. Did the social worker have a name tag? Was the name on the name tag visible? We're not asking you, are you satisfied with the appearance of the social worker? Rate from 1 to 5. We're asking you very specific things. Did the social worker make eye contact with you in communication? Did they acknowledge you when you walked in? So that's the difference, okay? And of course the cell phones and iPods, I don't want to go in, it's pretty self-explanatory. Please put those things away when you're dealing with clients or patients. I mean, I'm not sure what your policy is, but it's cell phones and iPads, iPods are proving to be a pretty disruptive in terms of productivity and patient engagement, okay? There's nothing that would piss off a patient more than your phone going off or your text, you're receiving a text during a consultation. So switch off your phone, reviewing personal messages and social media during work time is theft. There's an ethical issue. You're getting paid by the minute. Every minute you use to check your personal emails and social media and how many likes and follows you get, etc., means you're stealing time from your customer plus your employer. Okay, so I'm not sure if you have policies in place for this in your workplace, but if not, it's something to consider. Now, the whole purpose of this policy would not be punitive. that we don't want you to have cell phones on you, etc. The purpose of this policy is aimed at increasing and improving the client experience, okay? Because that's pretty destructive as well. So self-explanatory, simple things, but as I said, you know, by the end of today, you're going to have several things that you can implement to make changes from tomorrow, okay? So bear that in mind. Next. Okay, so this is just some information in terms of how to communicate and the kind of messaging, the choice of words to use. These are important, okay? You know, you can say, can I help you, in 100 different ways. Some of those ways may be enduring, authentic, engender trust, compassion, and empathy. Can I help you could also be said in a very antagonistic, non-supportive tone that patients or clients will not be happy with. Okay, so you've got to convey the right message in the right way. Okay, so your tone of the voice is important, your choice of words is important, and of course, the appearance. I mean, you know, mannerism is everything. The way, so communication is just not verbal. It's just not the words that come out. It's how you say it. It's the tone and pitch that you use. Okay, these things matter. Okay, you know, if you're frowning and screaming out in a high pitch, "Can I help you?" You know, it's pretty obvious that's not what you really mean. So bear that in mind, and you can see the difference that it makes to patients that are, you know, when they're receiving this telephonically and when they're face to face. Okay, the results of that are different. I don't have the percentages there, but you'll have it on the slide deck when we actually post it. So those numbers are a bit different. I don't have them with me, okay? But it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, next slide. Vic? Yeah, okay, keep that there. Okay, there's the percentages. Another click. Go. Another click. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, in face-to-face communication, 7% of what people believe is based on the words they hear. Over the telephone, 13% believe that. Okay, tone and look are extremely important in face-to-face communication, more important than choice of words. So it makes the point that I've been trying to tell you. You know, 38% believe based on how the words are spoken, and 55% based on what they see in the other percent. The point here is only 7% of the content of what you say is what they believe in. So communication is far more than just the content. Okay? Tone is important, and the look and appearance of the way you're communicating is significantly more, 5 times more, and probably 8 times more than the actual words itself. So remember that. And you know, one of the things that you probably benefit from is actually bringing in communications experts to help you polish up your communication skills if surveys show that that's one of the issues that you have in your organization. Okay, next. This is pretty much the same thing that I said earlier on. It's essentially a framework for communication. In the context of health, it's patients, but in the context of social development, it's clients, family members, one another. So it's kind of bi-directional, reduces anxiety on both sides, improves compliance, and improves the patient experience. So that's the kind of logic that we spoke about throughout. Okay, let's go. Okay, so why should we use this? So what's the rationale for ADEC? Reduce client and family anxiety. by establishing trust. I mean, this is key because you're acknowledging them, you're greeting them, you're introducing yourself, and remember, you're managing yourself up, you're engendering trust, you improve compliance because of explanations, you're developing this trust, this relationship, etc. It creates a safe environment. I mean, all of this underpinned by trust that's generated from ADEC. So it's a pretty powerful tool. It's a pretty powerful tool. And I think, it's associated with positive outcomes, as I said, in the context of the business. It's what we regard as customer loyalty. It's something that was raised earlier in the discussion, that, people at McDonald's, they use it as a customer retention strategy, okay? Now, the equivalent in our space is compliance. People are more compliant because ADEC helps that, okay? ADEC helps that. Okay, next. Okay, so similarly, that's kind of client, ADEC for clients. This is ADEC for colleagues, co-workers, subordinates, and pretty much the same thing, okay? Improves, reduces anxiety. I think your power is going off there. It's got 8 seconds to power off. Yeah, so, okay. So this is the reason for co-workers, and you can see essentially pretty much the same. Reduces anxiety, improves teamwork, makes communication very, very efficient, especially if you're rounding with co-workers, with subordinates, and you use ADEC, it becomes pretty organized and efficient. So that's what you need to target, because as you'll see when we get to rounding, rounding is not an hourly discussion or a discussion that goes for hours. It's very short, sweet, and very focused. Efficient. Efficiency couples with standardization. ADEC and rounding equals standardization, okay? So bear that in mind. Good, next slide. Okay, so you're now familiar with ADEC, acknowledge, introduce, duration, explanation, thank you. This is a recap, basically. The A and I is essentially to show courtesy and respect to people. The D and E is to keep people informed, okay? So bear that in mind. So there's 2 components of that. 1 is courtesy and respect to others. 2 is keep them informed, okay? I'll remind you that you're going to get these tips, and the whole idea of tips is to actually develop your own scripts, okay? So you should be able to, in fact, as we're going through the lecture, develop this kind of table with ADEC on one side and a few possibilities on acknowledgement, introduction, duration, etc. Remember, you'll have 2, one for co-workers or subordinates and one for clients. Okay, next. Okay, so remember, it's for every interaction. It just should become your routinized way of communicating with clients or with staff. This is it. I mean, ADEC needs to be embedded. We need to start standardizing communication in DSD. Get away from casual ways of interacting with clients. We need to formalize that, and this should be the kind of gold standard for every single interaction, non-negotiable, okay? I did mention before, it doesn't have to be delivered in the specific order. So, write it out and stand in front of the mirror and recite it. And sometimes you may be, better off changing the order, whether it's duration and explanation, etc. But some things obviously, have to be fixed. I mean, you can even start with thank you right up front. It's possible. So develop the script, but the components are there. So when you write out the script, you know, is the acknowledgement there, is the introduction there, is the duration there, is the explanation there, and is the thank you there, okay? So bear that in mind. Okay, next slide. Please stop me if you have any questions, okay? Do you have any questions before I move on? This is just kind of a recap, almost self-explanatory, but it's a new concept for you because you've never heard it. But it's pretty simplistic, and I think its power really lies in its simplicity, okay? I think it'll also be sad if I leave you and you don't actually embrace this concept and use it. Okay, so we're walking down the hall. This is pretty common, you know, walking down the passage, walking down the hall, walking into a room, meeting, etc., etc. I told you about the 10-5 rule. At 10 feet, make eye contact, smile, and or nod to those that you encounter. Obviously, at 10 feet, they probably can't hear you, but just a gentle nod and a smile, you know, maybe a hand expression as well. So, I don't know, what's 10 feet? Vic, can you look up 10 feet for me? Convert.
Just above 3 meters.
Just above 3 meters. Okay, so 10 feet just above 3 meters, 5 feet about 1.5 meters. So at 5 feet is where you start delivering ADEC. Okay? The acknowledgement starts at about just over 3 meters. And you know what? If you don't know what that is, just draw it out so you get a sense. You have to practice this and you have to do it. It just has to become second nature. And I think I used the term hardwiring early on. This is hardwiring. How do you hardwire something? Meaning is you make it second nature. Okay, so measure where 3 meters is, let that stick in your mind, and you know, start acknowledging. Practice at home with your kids and your spouse. That may be the best way to do it. Okay? Get that script optimized, and you will see and experience the power of ADEC. Okay, so 10 feet, acknowledge, usually the visual, smile. At 5 feet, deliver hello, and then, of course, you know, you can start your ADEC if you have to. You know, is this enough? Does someone look wrong? Do they look confused, lost, etc.? You know, if you feel no, everything is good, you can move on. If it's yes, you may want to approach them and introduce yourself and how you can help. So, okay, this is, once again, you know, even if you're just bypassing somebody, you know, 3 meters away, smile, nod, 1.5 meters away, greet. If you get a sense that something is wrong, the client is lost, confused, looking around, that's when you would offer to help, or you just continue. Okay, next slide. Once again, please remember, stop me, but this is pretty simplistic stuff, okay? This is 2 examples of how you would, if Cindy was actually a colleague. Hello, I'm Cindy from accounting. You look upset. Can I help you with something? Okay, that's if you encounter a colleague in the passageway that you sense is, you know, troubled. Or they may be lost or whatever it is. Can I help you with something? Can I help you find something? Are you looking for somebody? You know, so there's the script. We're giving it to you. Okay? Hello, I'm Cindy, one of the employees at this facility. You look a little lost. Can I help you find something? Okay? This is a conversation. If you're walking past somebody in the hall, you made that quick assessment that this person looks like they need help. This is the script. Now what you can see, this is nothing casual. It is, we're formalizing all of these things. Okay, we're formalizing all of them. Okay, next. Tone of voice, I spoke to you about this before. Okay, remember a smile is important, so that's that visual part of stuff. Smile can be seen and heard because it, you know, imparts a lot of power, so it's important. Pitch is important, you know. Sound like you're interested and engaged and excited about doing what you're doing. you know, don't, this is this thing about managing up. You want to manage yourself up. People get a pretty good perception very quickly of whether you have a sense of fulfillment in what you're doing. Very often by the pitch. If you know, you adjust your pitch, you have a level of excitement, or whether you kind of adopt a monotonic approach to chatting. All of these things convey either positive or negative connotations. The volume, okay, so that's important as well. You know, if you speak very softly and inaudibly, that generally transmits a perception of negativity and lack of confidence, whereas you speak loudly and clearly, and I don't mean shouting and screaming, of course it engenders some confidence. So practice that, get your volume right, emphasize certain words, that's important. I mean, especially, you know, the important aspects of the conversation is where you might want to really emphasize that part of the conversation. And especially, you know, if you need somebody to adhere to something or to become aware of something, you know, you may want to emphasize and re-emphasize, okay? Ask questions, because that means you've been listening and that you're interested, okay? So that's extremely important. You've got to listen. And one way of demonstrating enthusiasm is by asking questions, okay? Okay, next. Okay, so this is just more kind of scripts in terms of when you're greeting someone in person, what are the things you can say and do, you know, how can I help you? Make sure your name badge is visible, simple, but you probably had this experience with people with name badges and the name's written too small, or hair is covering it, or the badge is turned around. So it's important little things that make a difference, okay? So remember, at the end of the conversation, is there anything else I can do for you today? Okay, my name is Sarah. If you have more questions, just ask for me, but any of the employees will be happy to help you. I think you can craft that into your thank you. Okay, so I said there's two things that you kind of have to build into ADEC. Make a promise of excellence, okay, and, you know, ask if there's anything that you can do for them, okay? And if there's anything you cannot do for them, don't leave them hanging, okay? Make sure you get somebody involved that can help. That's another kind of rules, you know, things that you should never do is don't leave your clients hanging. Always, if you cannot assist, find them somebody who can assist, or give them some, you know, pathway to where that's going to lead to some kind of assistance to resolve the issues that you can't. Okay, next slide, Vic. Okay, so these are scripts if you're answering the telephone, so you'll get all of these. So if you're in a leadership position, you may want to give these things to your receptionists. You can obviously adapt them, but this is the kind of thing you need to be doing. Okay, if a reception area is the person who answers a lot of the calls, give them a script. Okay, if you give them a script, you can also, it's better for you to assess, evaluate, and monitor. Absolutely critical. Make this consistent across your organization. Even in the office, you know, if you have your social workers that take calls often, or you do teleconsultations or whatever it is, they need to write the script and have it paste it to the telephone. Okay, so we make all of this consistent and standardized. Okay, next. Keywords at key times. Okay, also once again I think pretty self-explanatory. But when you're building up your ADEC, I'm kind of giving you phrases and words that you should put in there, okay? Because this is what clients like to hear. Now, this is not stuff that we just sucked out of our thumb. This language is actually researched. Okay? So what do they like to hear? Certainly, I'll be happy to. It's my pleasure. Thank you. May I help you? Here's what I can do to get you what you need. Okay? So, you know, have these beside you when you're scripting your ADECs. Give this to your colleagues, give this to employees, and I think it's all so simple, it's almost beyond belief that I have to be standing here and giving you a lecture on it. But I can tell you it's a pretty powerful tool. Okay, next please. Okay, I don't know. It's never an acceptable answer. So never ever use that. Okay? As I said, always connect somebody, the client, to somebody who has the answer. Never say, I don't know. So ban that from your organizational vocabulary. Okay? Do not abandon the client until the connection is made. Okay, so this is very, very common, is we refer them to somebody else. You know, we say, okay, go down to office 25 around the corner and Mr. X will help you, and then that's it. That's not what enhances patient experience. That's not what increases patient engagement. Okay? You actually walk the person there and hand the person over to the one that you referred to. This is what this means. Don't abandon until that connection. You make that connection. All of these little things are pretty powerful. And as we go through these things, it's probably going through your mind, well, yeah, you know, we really don't do that. We should be doing it. This is, I guess, this is the reason why I thought the module is important. Because, you know, just go back, Vic, sorry, one more. Go, okay, so this is why it's important. And then welcome customer feedback and don't take it personally. So I think, you know, this is the issue I was bringing up about, you know, the question was, do we need the secret customer, or can, if we have this just culture in the organization where we don't look at feedback as personal criticisms but as opportunities to improve, I think that's the kind of right way to go. Okay, welcome, encourage feedback, ask for it. You know, it's one of the things you will do when you round, as you'll see, when I'll kind of give you the bullets about rounding, is, yeah, you know, what are we doing well? Because positive feedback is great for your team. And then what can we do to improve? That's even greater for your team, because you know what you can work with. So remember, that's the 1, 2, 3 of owning this kind of communication space. Okay, so next, are you connected to the Wi-Fi? Yeah. Okay, so let's just watch this short YouTube video, and then we can just discuss it quickly. It's very short, but I think it's interesting. I can't see it here. Are they seeing it?
No, I'm going to sort it out for them now. They can see it.
And the next day, for every person's groceries he bags, he puts a thought for the day in the bag. Now, about a month later, the store manager called me. He said, Barbara, I want to tell you what happened this morning. He said, when I went out on the floor about 9:30 this morning, the line at Johnny's checkout was 3 times longer than any other line. He said, I went ballistic. I was yelling, get more people out there, get more lanes open. And he said, the customer said, no, we want to be in Johnny's lane. We want the thought for the day. So who do you think is the most important person in that whole store? He said, one woman came up and said, I only used to shop once a week, but now I come in every time I go by because I want the thought for the day. He said, 3 minutes later, the store manager called me back again, and he said, Barbara, you and Johnny have transformed our store. He said, now in the floral department, when they have a broken off flower or an unused corsage, we used to just throw them away. He said, now they go out on the floor and they find an elderly woman or a little girl, and they pin it on them. So one of our meat packers loves Snoopy, so we ordered 50,000 Snoopy stickers. And every time he packages a piece of meat, his meat gets a Snoopy sticker on it. Now I said, I don't know about dog stickers on me. But he said, we are having so much fun, and our customers are having so much fun. And folks, that's a true leader. And if he can do it, there is no reason why every one of us in this room and out there in our audiences can't do it. Thank you. God bless.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on. Okay, so what's the take-home point from that short video? Anybody? Short and sweet, what's the take-home point? What's the take-home point? What did you learn from that video?
The customer is always right, is the key.
Okay, that's one of the lessons. What else? In the context of what we're talking about now. Client engagement and customer customer experience.
The personal touch made a big difference.
Personal touch made a big difference. Yeah, good. What else? I mean, to me, the biggest lesson was irrespective of who you are in the organization, you can make a difference and improve that patient experience. Who would have thought that a bagger at a grocery store would make such a big difference to the customer experience? This is what the story is about. Okay, it's about having individuals within your organization, irrespective of where they are in the hierarchy, that they can significantly improve the customer experience. And you also saw, implicit in this is the leadership backing these kind of individuals who are contributing in this way. Okay? So extremely important. And these subtle touches of a thank you note. How many of you, when last did you write out a thank you note to a colleague or even a client of yours? When have you last written a note to anybody for anything? Can you remember? I mean, that's kind of the most personal of personal touches. And somehow it's not part of our arsenal anymore. I use personal notes quite often with my staff, and it's pretty powerful. It's enduring, it's impactful, it makes a very, very big difference to the recipient, So in this case, a bagger putting in a thought for a day has a massive impact on the business as well, because people coming there not just for the groceries, they're coming for the thought of the day, and even if they walk past, they come in and buy something so they get a thought of the day. So there's a good business case to encourage that kind of behavior. Okay, so I thought I'll just show you that to make some of the points that you raised as well. So we can do these little things. That's not rocket science. That can have a tremendous impact because our clients, our customers, they're not all, and the data shows, it's not the product or the service per se that influences their experience. It's everything around it that has a greater contribution to their experience. Okay, let's go, next slide. Okay, so this was your exercise. Create your own ADEC, share it with your groups, and present it, optimize it. Take some time to do it. You know, if you want to, I can give you 5 or 10 minutes now and get some of you to read it if you're up to it, or you can do this on your own and share it with your group members. What do you want to do? Has anybody worked on their ADEC while I was talking? Anybody? I assume that's a no. So when we're done today, please take some time. I'm not going to police this. I'm not going to ask you to submit this. I mean, I think if you're invested in the program and if you're invested in what you do, you will kind of self-identify in the group that feels ADEC is a powerful tool and use it. Okay, so write these out, encourage each of your group members to share it with them, and you know, you can copy shamelessly from each other. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you find one of your colleagues has got it really right, just try and replicate that. It's standardization after all. So you know, I've given you some common phrases, etc. Try it. It really, really does work. Okay, so and it has a lot of benefits. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I'm going to just speak a bit about managing up. This is another strategy. So ADEC is a strategy, rounding is a strategy, managing up is a third strategy. I'll just talk briefly about it, but essentially it's sorry? You can't see the slide? Okay. Can others see the slide?
Yes, we can, Roy.
Okay, so then obviously an issue is it back?
We can see.
We can see managing up.
Yeah, that's it. That's in the slide. The slide has just got managing up.
Here is that.
It's down. Okay, let's go to the next slide and see. Okay, so this concept, can you see that now?
Yes, or we can see it.
Okay, that's fine. So this concept of managing up, if you haven't heard before, it's about, you know, uplifting by the way you communicate and the things you say, okay? As opposed to criticizing and managing down where you say negative things about people and you know, lead to issues that are counterproductive. So saying positive things about yourself is managing yourself up. So it always creates a positive impression on your clients and on your colleagues. And remember, it's a critical part of the I in ADEC. This is that opportunity to manage yourself up. Talk about yourself, your qualifications, your experience, and why you are the right person. That's what managing up is. And you can do exactly the same. So that creates a pretty good impression. You know, some people would say, well, you're showing off. Well, that's exactly what it is. But the point is, the purpose of that is to engender confidence amongst your clientele about you and the experience you have, and especially you guys in social development deal with very, very delicate issues that sometimes it's extremely difficult for clients to talk to you about. And when they do open up to you and when they do talk to you, they want to know that the person I'm talking to has the capacity, capability, the knowledge, the skills, the competencies to actually help me with that. Okay, so that's what it's all about. That's managing up. You know, giving people the confidence that you have the skill set to help and assist them. Because when they come and sit there, they want to feel confident that you're going to have solved their problem. Okay? I gave you some examples of, people who, in previous slides. So it's there, you'll find it. You know, talk about your qualifications, talk about the number of years you spent working in social services, the number of patients you see, the number of patients with the similar conditions that you have managed successfully, what's your success rate? These are kinds of things that you need to do, okay? Managing up also, refers to others if you talk about your colleagues in that way. So if you kind of the intermediary and you have to refer your clients on, manage those guys up too. Speak about the person that you're referring to them and why you're referring to them and why they're so good, what's their experience and success rates, etc. So ingrain this concept of managing up. It's the way you speak everybody up, create confidence and make a big deal of why you're the right person. You know, credibility is very important. Even as a leader, your credibility is important. So when you address your staff, when you address your team as a leader, the reason, what do they expect most? They want to feel confident that you've got the skill set to lead them through. You know, that becomes even more important in a crisis situation. So the one way for you to engender confidence in your team, in your co-workers, the group that you're leading, is to manage yourself up. Okay? That makes it explicitly clear that you are credible and experienced and capable to actually lead them and lead their organizations. And if you do that for your colleagues as well, I think overall it leads to this kind of sense of positivity within the workplace. Okay, so extremely important. It's kind of, it's not showing off. It's just laying bare the facts of what your experience is and what your qualification is to do the job. Okay, next slide. We don't do that too well, by the way, in healthcare and in social development. So get used to that. Okay, any questions about ADEC? That was more of a drill down, more granular. Any questions about that? Any questions? Any questions? You have any questions? Are you comfortable with ADEC as a tool, managing up? Managing up is just a, an approach, that's it. Any questions? Well, if you have no questions, let's just take, how are we doing for time, Vic?
1:25.
Well, 1:25, let's take a 5-minute break. We come back at 1:30 and do rounding. And, once again, you know what rounding is, but we'll get more granular. And then I kind of think that would encapsulate the key points that I wanted, the key messages that I wanted you to get as far as client engagement goes. Okay, so let's take a 5-minute break and come back. All right.